Hi, this is Captain Bob Whittaker. Welcome to Portsmouth, New Hampshire for a cruise aboard the MV Thomas Layton. Your trip today will take you through 350 years of fascinating history as you sail on to the historic Isles of Shoals. As you head down the Piscataqua River, you can see the old waterfront once known as Merchant's Row, where three-masted schooners docked beam to beam in the 1800s, and where the likes of Captain John Paul Jones, Benjamin Franklin, President Washington, and Daniel Webster went about their business. Today, the port has grown into one of the busiest and largest shipping harbors on the East Coast. Portsmouth South End, once called Puddle Dock, today is home to nationally famous Strawberry Bank and Prescott Park art festivals. Both of these fine attractions provide families with a wealth of history and entertainment among a beautiful waterfront garden setting. Strawberry Bank Village, established in 1630, helped forge new commerce in New England through the codfish industry. Early colonial settlers went on to provide future generations with a heritage that connects them to the oldest industry in America, which continues today to give them a livelihood from the sea. The Piscataqua River, rated among the fastest navigable rivers in the world. Deep swirling tidal waters flow past a naval prison once called the Castle. The 4-mile cruise downriver to the ocean takes you among a cluster of islands including Newcastle, once home to Hopley Yetton, the father of the United States Coast Guard, and site of the nation's third oldest yacht club. Just as you turn seaward, you pass Fort Constitution, where in 1774, the Sons of Liberty set the course for the beginning of the American Revolution. Once out on the North Atlantic Ocean, your spirits will be lifted by the gentle rise and fall of the ship's decks. And soon you'll see on the horizon the gems of the sea, called the Isles of Shoals. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the historic Isles of Shoals, a small cluster of 9 islands which stand astride the border between Maine and New Hampshire, just 6 miles off the coast. The rugged, windswept isles, with a low-lying vegetation, once served as home to 600 British colonial fishermen in the 17th century. In the mid-1600s, the islands were considered the center for trade commerce in central New England. Ships from England and foreign countries made frequent stops here. Many years later, in 1848, Thomas Layton, with the help of his wife Eliza and their 3 children, Celia, Oscar, and Cedric, opened the Appledore House, which became an elegant Victorian resort, the likes of which the Isles of Shoals would never see again. Celia Thaxter went on to become an island poet extraordinaire, the lady with a beautiful garden, who played host to literary and artistic great of the 19th century and helped to create the first artist colony in America. Today, Appledore Island and its handful of buildings, which face the mainland, are home to Shoals Marine Laboratory, founded in 1960s by Dr. John M. Kingsbury. The lab offers college courses in marine sciences. Students from across the country come to the Isles to study marine biology and the natural sciences of the Gulf of Maine. Each spring, the islands also play host to literally thousands of nesting birds, from common eiders to barn swallows. The atmosphere and spirit found at the Isles of Shoals borders the mystical. You sense that you have come to a place that time has left behind, a place where life is as it has been for over 100 years. Today, in Gosport Harbor, private yachts sway to a gentle meter, where Spanish galleons once boarded cargo for Europe. Where Sam Haley in the 1700s provided Shoals with a gristmill, a quarry, a distillery, a brewery, and a cherry orchard, all from his little island of Smutty Nose. Where, in 1820, his son discovered bars of silver, pirate's treasure, worth thousands of dollars, which funded the construction of a stone pier and breakwater. Their homestead stands today, 250 years later, as a symbol of self-reliance and independence New Englanders are famous for. Maine's southernmost island is also found here in Gosport Harbor. Cedar Island is home to a family of lobstermen who for 6 generations have called the Isles of Shoals home. As the Thomas Layton glides through Gosport Harbor, it crosses from Maine back into New Hampshire. Approaching Star Island, the Oceanic Hotel stands before you, 120 years old and still offering unique vacations for its guests. Though no longer a public resort, the hotel serves as a setting for internationally acclaimed conferences from mid-June to Labor Day. A walk along the primitive roadways and paths worn through the centuries, from the days of Gosport Village to the present, once again gives rise to the sense of being in a place of long ago. These are islands in the sea. Though surrounded by water, fresh water was the one source colonial settlers had to find in order to survive. Their many shallow wells remain today, 300 years later, and continue to yield fresh water for the islanders.
Because they wanted to take advantage of the natural resources here in the Gulf of Maine. The Alvin Shoals are ideally located, a lot of deep water for anchoring the ships. The 100-pound codfish, how much is that?
Behind and to the east of the hotel are a handful of small cottages, which were the homes of the last island fishermen. Some of these buildings may predate the American Revolution.
But there's the cluster of these cottages right in here might even date back before the Revolutionary War. We won our independence. This cottage to my left is probably the oldest building on an island. And you can see it's just a small Cape style, what they call Cape Cod style, back here in New Jersey. She died in Washington Bay Bridge. This very day, her ghost haunts on the shore.
At the island's center is Gosport Village Chapel, built of stone quarried from the Isles of Shoals. The chapel served as the center of community life. It's not only a church, but a meeting house and a school for island children. The island remains a place today where you're free to explore or relax or catch the wind under your kite. And as we return to the Thomas Layton and we pull away from the pier, folks left behind will chant, S-T-A-R, S-T-A-R, you will come back, you will come back. So cried by the ghost of the pirate's wife centuries ago. Once underway, you cruise among the other islands found in New Hampshire, while seeing Star Island Southside, a unique perspective that makes you marvel at how those buildings, so exposed to the elements, so precariously set on those rocks, so close to the shore, their tenacity is a wonder. In the year 1614, Captain John Smith sailed the waters of the Isles of Shoals. His chart and narrative on coastal New England helped to open the way for future colonies, and it was upon his chart that we found for the first time in recorded history the words New England. In 1839, Thomas Layton brought his family to live at White Island as he took up the job of lighthouse keeper. Though the nearly 200-year tradition of lighthouse keepers at White Island is only a past memory, the 19th century light still guides mariners safely through the islands. Though the history of the islands is fascinating, you always want to be searching the surrounding waters for marine life, such as dolphins or whales. Your last island to visit before leaving the Isles of Shoals for Portsmouth is Lunging, or Londoners Island. Early trading posts here helped to establish these isles as the hub of commerce in central New England in early colonial times. The honeymoon cottage of 19th century vintage has been privately owned by a family from Massachusetts since 1926. Since before time, before colonial settlers, wildlife is called Isles of Shoals home. Though threatened, they persist and stand watch. As the Thomas Layton sets its course for Portsmouth, you leave behind a cluster of 9 islands, the Isles of Shoals, just 6 miles off the coast and truly at the cornerstone of your early American heritage. For families throughout this great land, look upon the islands as a place where their family's history began in America centuries ago. The Appledore House at the Isles of Shoals inspired the construction of many of New England's premier grand resorts, such as Newcastle's Wentworth by the Sea, the resort of the presidents, standing today as a ghost of those special times gone by. Standing watch over the harbor is Whaleback Lighthouse, built in the 1850s, of massive granite blocks built like a fortress to withstand the forces unleashed during storms. Today, this automated light can be seen 20 miles at sea and is equal to 600,000 candles. Now abandoned, White Island Lifeboat Station once gave shelter to 30 Coast Guard men during World War II, a time when the harbor defense of Portsmouth included 5 forts, radio-activated mines, and anti-submarine nets. Today, concerned citizens are raising funds to restore this historic building. It was always the nature of the land and the great river that ran through it that attracted the early settlers to these shores. Stands of great white pines stretching 200 feet into the sky grew at water's edge. By 1690s, shipwrights of England sailed to Portsmouth to build the first Royal Navy warship in America, the Falkland, which began a nearly 300-year tradition, which ended in 1969 with the launching of the nuclear submarine Sandlance from the Portsmouth Navy shipyard. On the right flank of the harbor entrance, where the river turns and heads inland, stands Fort McCleary, built for the War of 1812. Major Andrew McCleary lost his life at the Battle of Bunker Hill, June 17, 1775. He was the first man from Maine to lose his life in the American Revolution. From 1814 to 1969, the Portsmouth Navy Shipyard constructed nearly 200 ships, including the USS Portsmouth, which stood watch over San Francisco Bay while the Americans took California from Mexico. It has often been said that Walt Disney was so impressed with the prison's design that he hired its designer, who went on to become the mastermind of Magic Kingdom and Disneyland in Anaheim, California. Today, the Naval Shipyard, with its 19th century village setting, 44 trade workshops, and 24 historic buildings, is involved in repair, refitting, and refueling the existing submarine fleet. Today, the Portsmouth Navy Shipyard continues its leadership role similar to the one it played during World War II, when the yard was the most active one on the entire East Coast, and 20,000 people worked there. After the work is completed, these nuclear submarines leave Portsmouth for duty, where they patrol the oceans of the world far below the sea. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if we had more time today, we could journey as far inland from here as we went out to the Isles of Shoals, to the National Wildlife Refuge of Great Bay. But now, we must turn back into our dock in Portsmouth, and I would like to thank you for joining us today, visiting the Isles of Shoals in Portsmouth Harbor, which helped to create this great country. Goodbye, good luck, and I hope you will come back.